There's always the red woman.
What's one redhead gonna do against 40 armed men?
You haven't seen her do what I've seen her do.
Welcome back, Game of Thrones fans, for another season of House Slate. Looks like our prediction from last season about Melisandre being really old proved to be true. Melisandre has always been a believer in the power of illusion, propping up Stannis as the world savior Azor Ahai, giving him a fake magic sword, and telling Selyse that sometimes you need tricks in order to get people to believe.
Once they step into his light, they will see the lie for what it was. A trick that led them to the truth.
Symbolically and literally then, Melisandre puts aside the last of those illusions, and ironically, this newfound humility is what will pave the way for her to achieve her dreams and bring about the return of Azor Ahai, because she'll be willing to sacrifice herself to bring Jon back. Remember that the Red God's power was already used to resurrect Beric Dondarrion in Season 2.
Cast your light upon this man, your servant. Bring him back from death and darkness. His flame has been extinguished.
And even though Mel's done with her pretensions, Davos reminds us that she's still extremely powerful.
As we learned in Season 1 when Daenerys brought forth the dragons, only death can pay for life. Melisandre has killed a lot of people, but she's always made someone else, usually Stannis, do the sacrificing. Now I think she's realized that for a sacrifice to count, she has to give something up herself, and the only thing she has to give is her own life.
Theon tries to give his own life to save Sansa.
I can't wait to see what parts Ramsay cuts off you this time.
But it's Brienne and Pod to the rescue. Everyone helps everyone else, and in the end, Brienne offers her sword to Sansa. In return, Sansa makes her way, with a little help, through the formal acceptance given by the head of a noble house.
I pledge to ask no service of you that might bring you dishonor.
This is another huge symbolic moment. It's her first step towards accepting her destiny as the new head of House Stark, and potentially the Queen of the North.
Not just potentially. Roose Bolton tells Ramsay that they are not Lannister loyalists and that they are going to rebel against the crown. That plan only works if you assume that Sansa is, well, the Queen of the North. A queen they control. She may not get that yet, but it's clear that this is where it's headed, Boltons or no. I think she'll realize she has to finish what Robb started, but first she's going to have to get far away from the Boltons. But how?
Go north. Only north.
The most obvious answer, the one that Theon has offered, is to go north to Castle Black, which is what I'd do if I were her. She thinks Jon is alive and is Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Remember, Sansa grew up hearing about the Night's Watch as a formidable army that guards the realms of men, so that's going to sound very powerful to her. And the Night's Watch loves the Starks. She has no idea that they are now a ragtag team whose numbers are decimated and that her brother Jon is dead.
But Ramsay will suspect her of going north, and he's still got more men and more horses and an unlimited supply of dogs.
This is good meat. Feed it to the hounds.
What if she were to go to the one other place with a loyal family who would do anything to protect a daughter of Catelyn Stark? The Riverlands! Cat was a Tully, and while the Freys are the big bosses of the region now, the Tullys still have a nearly impregnable castle, Riverrun, and Sansa's Uncle Brynden the Blackfish escaped the Red Wedding.
I need to find a tree to piss on.
I think she'll fake everyone out and head southwest.
Wonder if the battle for Winterfell that Melisandre saw in the flames wasn't Jon coming from the north, so much as Sansa coming from the south to take back the crown that is hers.
Speaking of women taking over, the Dornish plot got a little crazy. All the Martells are dead, and now Ellaria and the Sand Snakes run the show down south. This seems like a death wish, but the Lannisters and Tyrells are a hot mess right now. No one has the strength to invade Dorne. What started as a War of the Five Kings is turning into the War of the Five Queens. Cersei, Marjorie, Sansa, Ellaria, and Daenerys.
Dorne being an open rebellion against the crown could be really good for Daenerys. Dorne is a great place for an invading army from Essos to land. Ellaria has made it clear she's into the idea of female rulers. She's in this for revenge, not to rule Dorne, so I bet she'd be up for pledging fealty to Dany in exchange for Dany raining dragonfire on her enemies in King's Landing. Things are perfectly set up for Daenerys in Westeros. Too bad she's a captive of the Dothraki and her entire fleet has been set on fire.
She won't be sailing to Westeros anytime soon.
How will Dany get back to Westeros one of these days? And is next week the week for Jon 2.0?
Maybe we'll find out next week on House Slate.